There's a moment in your life when you realize that being nice is not protecting you anymore. You wake up one day and you see it clearly. The way you have been acting, the way you have been bending over backwards for everyone, it is not keeping you safe. It is actually costing you something. It is costing you respect because people do not respect someone who always says yes. It is costing you time because you spend your hours on things that do not matter to you. And slowly, without you even noticing at first, it is costing you yourself. The real you starts to disappear. Behind all the smiles and the favors and the quiet agreements, you feel a shift coming from deep inside. You know something has to change, and that is the part you are afraid of. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It is that moment when you are about to speak your truth, when the words are right there on your lips and something stops you. It is when you know exactly what needs to happen next, but you choose the safe path instead, the easy path, the one that does not cause any waves. It is when you see the line you need to cross, the boundary you need to set, but you step back one more time and tell yourself you will do it tomorrow. Every single time you do that, a part of you fades away. It is not a dramatic fade. It is quiet. It is the part of you that knows you are capable of more. The part that sees through the games people play. The part that is done pretending everything is fine when it is not. Machiavelli did not teach people how to be evil. That is a misunderstanding. He taught them how to stop being naive. He looked at the world without any filter of wishful thinking. He did not pretend people were better than they were. He understood that power is not given to those who wait politely and hope for the best. Power is claimed by those who understand the game and play it without apology, without feeling guilty for playing it. This video is about crossing that line, the one that most people see but never step over. It is about the version of yourself that is waiting on the other side of that line, the one you think about when you are alone at night, when you cannot sleep, the one who does not bend when pressure comes, the one who does not explain themselves to everyone, the one who simply moves, who takes action without hesitation. You are afraid of that person, and we are going to examine why that fear lives inside you. Before we go deeper, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose myself first. Let that be the start of your change. Number one, your mind already crossed the line a long time ago. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you won an argument that never actually happened? How many conversations have you replayed in your head where you said exactly what needed to be said, where you were clear and strong and people listened? How many situations have you walked through mentally, handling them perfectly, standing your ground with confidence, only to freeze when the real moment arrived in your actual life? You rehearse strength constantly inside your own mind. You build entire scenarios where you are direct, where you are clear, where you are unshakable, where you draw lines and people respect those lines, where you move with certainty instead of doubt. But when reality shows up, you hesitate. You imagine saying no to someone, but when they ask, you say maybe instead. You imagine walking away from a situation that drains you, but instead you explain yourself and stay. You imagine holding your ground on something important, but you compromise at the last second to avoid conflict. That gap between what you rehearse in your mind and what you actually do in your life, that is where fear lives. Machiavelli knew that thinking like someone with power means nothing without action behind it. Strategy without execution is just a fantasy you tell yourself. Here is what is really happening. Your mind has already crossed the line. You have already become that person mentally. You know what it looks like to be strong. You know what it feels like to stand up for yourself. You have practiced it 1,000 times in your head, but you will not make it real in your actual life. Because once you step into that energy, once you act that way in front of other people, they will see the shift. They will react to you differently. Some of them will adjust and respect you more. Others will resist and push back against you. Right now, you get to live in both worlds. You feel strong in your thoughts while staying safe in your actions. You get the mental satisfaction of being powerful without having to deal with the real consequences. But that is not power. That is just preparation without delivery. Your mind is ahead of your body. Your thoughts have already made the move. You just have not shown anyone else yet. And every time you rehearse mentally but act weakly in reality, you reinforce a pattern. You tell yourself you are not ready, that maybe tomorrow you will be ready. But the gap between who you are and who you could be is not wide. It is just visible. The moment you take one action that matches the strength in your mind, everything changes. The rehearsal becomes reality. Stop waiting for the feeling of readiness. You will never feel completely ready. You make the move first, and then readiness follows you. Number two, your silence serves someone else. This is a hard truth, but you need to hear it. There are people in your life who need you to stay exactly as you are right now, not because they care deeply about you and your well-being, but because your current version serves them in some way. They benefit from your predictability. They benefit from your willingness to accommodate them. They benefit from your habit of putting yourself second. They benefit from your silence when you should speak up. These people are not plotting against you in some dramatic way. They are not villains in a movie. But unconsciously, without even realizing it, they have built their comfort around your compliance. They feel safe because they know how you will react. They know you will not push back. Machiavelli watched this pattern everywhere he looked. He saw how power structures depend on keeping certain people in certain positions. He saw how systems collapse when someone breaks the pattern and refuses to stay in their place. Your life operates the same way, not dramatically, but quietly. Think about the person who only reaches out when they need something from you. They benefit from you always being available. Think about the one who makes decisions for you without asking. They benefit from you not trusting yourself. Think about the one who dismisses your ideas in meetings or conversations. They benefit from you doubting your own voice. When you start to change, these dynamics shift, and people who were comfortable in the old structure will feel uncomfortable in the new one. Your growth threatens their balance, not because you are doing anything harmful to them, but because you changing means they have to adjust. And most people resist adjustment. They want things to stay the same because it is easier for them. This is where most people stop. They feel the pushback from others, and they think they are doing something wrong. They start to wonder if they are being selfish or unreasonable. But Machiavelli would tell you that you are not scared of change itself. You are scared of the conflict that comes with change. You are scared of the resistance, the questions from people, the accusations that you have changed for the worse. That fear is real because conflict is uncomfortable. Being misunderstood hurts. But staying small to avoid that pain is choosing their comfort over your own life. Every time you shrink to keep the peace, you lose a piece of yourself. Growth costs something. It costs old patterns that no longer serve you. It costs dynamics that were built on you being less than you are. It costs the approval of people who only liked you because you did not challenge them. But what you gain is yourself, the version that has been waiting beneath all the accommodation and people-pleasing. So if you are afraid of stepping into your power because of how others might react, understand this. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Their adjustment is their work to do. Your growth is yours. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My growth matters most. Number 3, one move changes everything. You can study power forever. You can read about it, think about it, understand every principle and concept. But power does not exist until it becomes visible. Machiavelli knew this completely. He did not just write about theory in abstract terms. He wrote about action. He wrote about making moves that people could witness with their own eyes. Because if people did not see your power, if they could not observe it in action, then you did not have it. The same applies to you. You can have absolute clarity internally about what you want and what you deserve. You can know your worth down to the bone. You can understand your boundaries perfectly. But if you never demonstrate any of that, nothing in your life will change. This is where most people stay stuck. They build courage inside themselves. They do all the mental work. They read books and watch videos and prepare themselves. But when the moment comes to act, they wait. They tell themselves it is not the right time. They convince themselves that one more day of preparation will not hurt. And months pass, sometimes years pass, and they are still in the same place. Here is the shift. Power begins with one visible move. Not a complete transformation of your entire life. Not 10 moves all at once. Just one. One boundary that you state clearly to someone. One time when you do not back down after you say what you need. One moment where you walk away from a situation without explaining yourself for an hour. One instance where you choose yourself in front of other people who are used to you choosing them. That is the move. And once you make it, everything shifts because visibility locks identity. When people see you act differently, you cannot pretend it did not happen. You cannot undo it. You cannot go back to being the person who would have stayed silent. You have shown them who you are becoming. More importantly, you have shown yourself. This is why hesitation feels safer, because as long as you do not make the move, you can still retreat. You can still change your mind. But once you step into your power publicly, There is no reverse button. The message is sent to everyone, including yourself. And that is terrifying because it means commitment. It means no more being half in and half out. But it is also liberating because the fear you have been carrying was never really about the action itself. It was about the uncertainty of whether you would actually do it. Once you do it, the uncertainty vanishes. The first move is the hardest. Your heart will race. Your mind will scream warnings at you. Every instinct you have will push you towards safety, but you have to push through because the first move is the hardest. The second move is easier. By the third or fourth, it starts to feel natural. You realize that the person you were afraid to become is not dangerous at all. They are just someone who values themselves. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. You make the move, and then you become ready. You set the boundary, and then you learn to hold it. You walk away, and then you learn to stand alone. You speak up, and then you learn to handle the reaction. Machiavelli said it is better to act and risk failure than to do nothing and guarantee mediocrity. So what is your move? What is the one thing you have been avoiding because it would make your shift visible to others? Do that. Do it today. Do it scared, but do it. Number 4, firmness is not violence. Here is where many people get blocked. They look at the idea of becoming more assertive, more direct, more powerful, and they think it means becoming cold and hard. They think strength equals cruelty. And because they do not want to be cruel, they stay weak. Let me be direct with you. That is a false choice. Machiavelli had a reputation. People called him ruthless. They said he taught manipulation and deception. But here's what people miss. Machiavelli was not teaching cruelty. He was teaching control. He was teaching how to separate emotion from decision-making, how to act based on what is necessary, not based on what feels comfortable in the moment. That is not heartlessness. That is clarity. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can care deeply about people and still say no to them. You can respect someone and still walk away if they are draining your energy. Strength is not about shutting down your emotions. It is about not letting your emotions control your decisions. Think about it this way. Someone keeps crossing your boundaries. They take your time for granted. They dismiss your needs. If you are emotionally driven, you might explode at them in anger, or you might swallow everything and build resentment inside. Either way, emotion is running the show. But if you are strong, you address it calmly. You set the boundary without yelling. You make the decision based on what is right for you, not based on guilt or fear. That is not cruel. That is powerful. And here is where the confusion enters. When you stop allowing people to take advantage of you, they will call you cold. When you stop explaining yourself for every little thing, they will say you have changed. When you start choosing yourself instead of always choosing them, they will accuse you of being selfish. But that is their discomfort speaking, not the truth. You were taught wrong. You were taught that being firm means being unkind, that having standards means being harsh. But those are lies designed to keep you manageable. Real strength is knowing the difference between being harsh and being clear, between being mean and being honest. Machiavelli said, a leader must be both loved and feared, and if forced to choose, fear is more reliable. But people misread that as advocating for tyranny. He was really saying, do not let your desire to be liked make you weak. You can be respected without being cruel. And here is the critical shift. Not everyone deserves access to you. Your time, your energy, your attention, your mental space, those are valuable resources. And you get to decide who receives them. That is not selfish. That is self-respect. If someone drains you, you are allowed to create distance. If someone disrespects you repeatedly, you are allowed to remove them from your space. Doing that does not make you a bad person. It makes you someone who values themselves. The fear is that if you start setting these boundaries, you will lose your warmth. You will become someone you do not recognize. But that is not what happens. What actually happens is you become more authentic. When you are not constantly bending to keep everyone else comfortable, you have space to show up as your real self. Strength and kindness are not opposites. They are partners. You can be warm and still have limits. You can be generous and still protect your peace. So stop confusing strength with cruelty. Strength does not mean being cold. It means using your heart wisely, giving it to people and situations that actually deserve it. Machiavelli valued control because he understood that people who act purely from emotion get destroyed by their own feelings. You are not trying to rule a kingdom, but you are trying to run your own life. And if you let guilt, fear, and people-pleasing control every decision, you will lose. Be deliberate, Be clear, be kind when it serves you, and firm when it is needed. That is not cruelty. That is wisdom. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Strength protects my peace. Number 5, comfort dies when you rise. This part is uncomfortable, but it is necessary to say. When you step into your power, you will lose something. Not everything, but something specific. You will lose a version of affection that only existed when you stayed small. Some people in your life care about you, but they care about the version of you that does not challenge them, the version that accommodates them, the version that stays predictable and safe. When you stop being that version, their affection shifts. Sometimes it disappears completely. And it is confusing because you did not do anything mean to them. You just grew. You just started valuing yourself. But to them, it feels threatening because the whole dynamic was built on you staying in a certain role. And now you are stepping out of it. Machiavelli saw this pattern constantly. He watched people claim power and immediately lose allies, not because they became cruel or evil, but because they stopped pretending. The same happens in your life, not dramatically, but quietly. The person who felt important when you needed them constantly loses that role when you become self-sufficient. The person who felt superior when you doubted yourself loses that position when you start trusting your own judgment. And when they lose that, they pull back from you. This is the cost Machiavelli talked about. You cannot gain power without losing comfort. And what you leave behind is the approval of people who needed you to stay down. Now here is the painful part. You will miss it even when you know it was not healthy. You will miss the familiarity of those connections. You will miss the easy interactions. There will be moments when you question whether it was worth it. But here is what you need to understand. Affection that requires you to stay small is not real support. Real support adjusts when you grow. Real support celebrates your growth. Real support might struggle with the change at first, but it does not punish you for it. If someone only showed you warmth when you were easy to manage, that was not genuine care. That was convenience. And losing convenience hurts, but it is not the same as losing something real. Machiavelli accepted this cost early in his understanding. He knew that stepping into power meant stepping away from certain comforts, and he did it anyway. Not because he did not value connection, but because he valued truth more. That is the choice in front of you. You can keep the version of affection that requires you to stay the same, or you can step into your power and see what remains. See who adjusts. See who stays. Yes, some people will leave. That is the truth, and it will hurt. But the ones who stay, those connections become stronger because they are built on who you actually are. And the new people who enter your life after the shift, they will meet the real you from the start. No masks, no performance. That is the exchange. You lose shallow affection and you gain real respect. The transition is hard. There is a gap between losing the old and finding the new, a gap where you might feel alone. But that gap does not last forever. And on the other side, you find something better. You find people who appreciate your strength, not just your flexibility, people who respect your boundaries instead of testing them. And you find yourself the version that has been buried under years of trying to keep everyone else comfortable. So yes, you will lose a version of affection and it will hurt, but what you gain is worth it. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Real support celebrates growth. Number 6, silence becomes your filter. Real power does not announce itself to everyone. It does not need to prove anything to anyone. It just exists. And one of the clearest signs that you have stepped into your power is this. You stop reacting to everything and you start selecting where your energy goes. The one who understands that real power is not about controlling others. It is about refusing to be controlled. Machiavelli did not write about evil. He wrote about reality, about seeing the world as it actually is, not as you wish it was. And the reality is this. You have been playing small because it felt safe, but it is not protecting you anymore. It is limiting you. And somewhere deep down, you know that. That is why you are here. That is why this message resonates with you. That is why the fear feels so real, because you are close. You are right at the edge, and all you have to do is step. So step. Become the person you are afraid to become, not because they are perfect, not because they have everything figured out, but because they choose themselves, and that choice changes everything. If this message resonated with you, hit the like button right now. Share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel because we are just getting started with these truth-based conversations. Drop your affirmation in the comments. Let me know which point hit you the hardest. You have got this. Now go prove it.